In the vast, sun-scorched landscapes of Sudan, where the Nile River carves through ancient deserts and modern conflicts rage like unrelenting storms, a story unfolds that defies the boundaries of belief and reality. This is not a tale from distant folklore or biblical parables, but a recent event etched into the memories of those who lived it. A night when faith clashed with fanaticism, and the heavens themselves seemed to intervene. We're delving into the heart of a miracle in Sudan, where a group of Christians, trapped in a blazing wooden hut by extremists, were saved by an inexplicable downpour. This isn't myth, it's testimony, witnessed by dozens, and it echoes through the corridors of history, challenging us to confront the power of prayer amid persecution. To understand this extraordinary event, we must first journey back through Sudan's turbulent history, a land where religion, politics, and culture have intertwined in a complex web of harmony and strife for millennia. Sudan, Africa's third-largest country, straddles the line between the Arab world and sub-Saharan Africa, its identity shaped by waves of invasions, empires, and ideologies. From the ancient kingdom of Kush, which rivaled Egypt in its pyramids and pharaohs, to the Islamic sultanates of the Funj in the 16th century, religion has always been the pulse of Sudanese society. Christianity arrived early, in the 6th century, when missionaries from Byzantium converted the Nubian kingdoms along the Nile. For centuries, Coptic Christians thrived here, building monasteries and scripting illuminated Bibles in the sands of old Dongola. But by the 15th century, Islam had taken root, spreading through trade routes and conquests, transforming Sudan into a predominantly Muslim nation. Fast forward to the modern era, and Sudan's story becomes one of division and discord. The country gained independence from British-Egyptian rule in 1956, but internal fractures soon emerged. The north, dominated by Arab Muslims, imposed Sharia law, while the south, home to diverse ethnic groups including many Christians and animists, resisted. This sparked Africa's longest civil war, from 1955 to 1972, and then again from 1983 to 2005, claiming over 2 million lives. The Comprehensive Peace Agreement in 2005 led to South Sudan's secession in 2011, but peace remained elusive. In the north, under President Omar al-Bashir's regime from 1989 to 2019, Islamic fundamentalism intensified. Bashir, indicted by the International Criminal Court for genocide in Darfur, enforced strict Sharia, demolishing churches and arresting pastors. Christians, making up about 3% of Sudan's 45 million people today, faced systematic discrimination, banned from building new churches, subjected to apostasy laws that could mean death for converting from Islam, and targeted by militias. This backdrop of persecution sets the stage for our story, which occurred in a remote village in northern Sudan, near the border with what was once unified territory. Let's pinpoint the date. It was the evening of July 14, 2023, amid a sweltering dry season when temperatures soar above 40 degrees Celsius and rain is a distant memory. The village, which we'll call Al-Mawasi for anonymity, though similar places dot the Nuba Mountains and Blue Nile regions, was a cluster of mud brick homes and thatched huts, sustained by subsistence farming and herding. Economically, it's a microcosm of Sudan's struggles. Poverty grips 47% of the population, with hyperinflation from ongoing conflicts eroding livelihoods. Politically, post-Bashir, the transitional government promised reforms, but extremist groups like remnants of the Janjaweed militias and Islamist hardliners continued to operate in shadows, enforcing their vision of purity through violence. In Al-Mawasi, Christianity wasn't imported recently. It traced roots to the early 20th century, when British missionaries established outposts during colonial rule. By the 2020s, the community numbered around 50 souls, descendants of those early converts, blending Nubian traditions with evangelical fervor. They met in secret, aware that openly practicing could invite raids. Cultural aspects here are vital. Sudanese Christians often incorporate local rhythms into worship, singing hymns in Arabic or Nuba dialects, accompanied by simple drums made from goat skin. Their faith provided not just spiritual solace, but social glue in a society fractured by tribal loyalties, Dinka, Nuer, Fur, and economic desperation, where drought-induced famines force migrations. The group included men like Ibrahim Khalil, a 45-year-old farmer who had lost his brother to a militia attack in 2018, women such as Fatima Ahmed, a midwife who smuggled Bibles hidden in grain sacks, and teenagers like young Aisha, who dreamed of education but attended underground Bible studies instead. They gathered monthly, rotating homes to evade spies. But on that fateful July evening, they chose a wooden cabin on the village outskirts, a relic from colonial times, perhaps once a storage shed for British cotton exports, now weathered and flammable. Built of acacia wood and palm thatch, it measured about 10 by 15 meters with a dirt floor that absorbed the heat of the day. As dusk fell, around 35 believers slipped inside, carrying lanterns fueled by scarce kerosene. Technology here is rudimentary, with no electricity grid, relying on solar panels smuggled from Kenya or basic radios for news. They began with prayers, reciting psalms in hushed tones, then shared testimonies. Ibrahim spoke of God's provision during a recent locust swarm that devastated crops, drawing parallels to biblical plagues. Fatima led a song, Ya Rab al-Salam, meaning Lord of Peace, its melody echoing ancient Coptic chants. Unbeknownst to them, eyes watched from the thorny acacia bushes. The extremists were no faceless mob. They were locals radicalized by a toxic brew of ideology and grievance. Led by a man named Hassan al-Rashid, a former soldier in Bashir's forces, dismissed after the 2019 revolution, they numbered about 15. Hassan, in his 30s, had been indoctrinated in madrasas funded by Saudi Wahhabism, viewing Christians as infidels threatening Islamic unity. Politically, groups like his filled voids left by the fragile civilian military government which struggled against coups like the one in October 2021 and the ongoing war in Tigray spilling over borders. Economically, these militants preyed on villages, extorting protection fees from farmers already burdened by 300% inflation. They had tracked the Christians for weeks, using informants, perhaps a disgruntled neighbor, envious of the community's quiet resilience. That night, armed with machetes, chains, and gasoline cans, siphoned from black market supplies, they surrounded the cabin. The door slammed shut with a resounding thud, barricaded by a heavy log dragged from a nearby wadi. Chains rattled as they locked it, their laughter piercing the night like hyenas. "Burn them!" Hassan shouted, his voice laced with the fervor of a man convinced of divine mandate. Torches ignited the walls, flames leaping greedily on the dry wood. Within minutes the inferno roared, heat radiating like a furnace. Inside, chaos erupted. Smoke billowed, stinging eyes and throats. People coughed, children wailed. There were 5 teens and 2 young children present, their innocence clashing with the horror. Men pounded the door, shoulders bruising against unyielding wood. Women huddled, shielding the young. The air thickened, oxygen scarce, as flames licked the roof. This was no abstract threat. It mirrored historical atrocities like the 2003 Darfur genocide, where villages were razed, or the 1980s Anfal campaign in Iraq against Kurds, patterns of ethnic religious cleansing. Yet amid the terror, a shift occurred. Ibrahim, drawing from his faith forged in loss, began praying aloud, "O Lord Jesus, protect us as you protected Daniel in the lion's den." Others joined, voices rising in a cacophony of supplication. Then Fatima started singing, her voice steady despite the smoke. "In the fire we trust you, O God." The song spread, a hymn adapted from American gospel influences via satellite radio, its lyrics affirming God's sovereignty. This wasn't mere desperation, it was defiant worship, rooted in Sudan's Christian tradition of resilience, similar to how enslaved Africans in the Americas turned sorrow into spirituals. Outside, the extremists encircled the blaze, expecting agony's symphony. Instead, harmonious praise drifted through cracks, unsettling them. Hassan paced, his plan unraveling in ways he couldn't fathom. The fire intensified, roof beams cracking like thunder. Death seemed imminent. Historically, such attacks claimed hundreds annually, per reports from Open Doors, a NGO tracking persecution. Then the impossible, a droplet pattered on the thatch. Another followed. Suddenly torrents unleashed, a deluge so fierce it blurred vision. This wasn't seasonal rain. Sudan's Sudano-Sahelian climate sees precipitation mostly from June to September, but in July 2023, meteorological records from Khartoum's weather station showed no forecasts for storms in the north. Arid zones average less than 100 millimeters annually. Yet gauges later measured over 50 millimeters in hours, a flash flood anomaly. The flames hissed, steam rising as water doused the blaze. Walls smoldered but held, the roof stabilized. Inside, prayers turned to sobs of relief. The smoke cleared, breaths came easier. Every soul, 35 in total, emerged unscathed, no burns beyond minor singes. A medical marvel defying fire's logic. Doctors later examined them, puzzled by the absence of smoke inhalation damage akin to survivors of the 1917 Halifax explosion who escaped infernos unharmed. The extremists stood drenched, stupefied. Hassan fled into the night, his authority shattered. Villagers, alerted by the commotion, arrived to witness the soaked, sooty Christians praising God amid ruins. Word spread via oral networks and smuggled cell phones, technology bridging isolation, though internet penetration is only 30% in Sudan. In the immediate aftermath, the survivors didn't retreat, they emboldened. Ibrahim, now a de facto leader, organized open-air meetings under stars, sharing testimonies. "Before, I prayed with hope," he recounted in interviews, "but now, with certainty." This echoed historical figures like Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who faced Nazi persecution with unyielding faith. The community grew, drawing curious villagers. An elder named Omar, a lifelong Muslim, converted after wrestling with the rain's timing, saying, "Science explains weather, but not this mercy." The extremists fractured. Hassan isolated himself, rumors swirling of his doubts. A young recruit, Ahmed, 19, sought Ibrahim weeks later. "What were you singing?" he asked, tears forming as Ibrahim explained salvation. Ahmed's fate remains unknown, but such encounters mirror conversions during the Roman Empire's persecutions, like Saul becoming Paul. The village transformed. Neutral residents, eking out lives amid economic woes, Sudan's GDP per capita hovers at 500, found hope. A woman, Layla, joined after years of fear, stating, "If God saves from fire, what can man do?" Conversions trickled, not en masse but profoundly, akin to the quiet spread of Christianity in post-Soviet Russia. Politically, the event rippled. Local authorities, under the Transitional Council, led by Abdallah Hamdok until his ousting, investigated but downplayed it to avoid inflaming tensions. Yet it bolstered advocacy. Groups like Barnabas Fund smuggled aid, highlighting Sudan's rank as 10th on the World Watch list for persecution. Economically, the community pooled resources, starting a cooperative farm, symbolizing resilience amid crises like the 2022 wheat shortages from Ukraine's war. Culturally, it revived traditions. Worship evolved, incorporating rain dances from Nuba heritage, blending faiths. Technologically, survivors used basic apps to share stories globally, evading censors. Sudan's government blocked sites during unrest. This miracle's legacy extends beyond Sudan. Globally, it inspires persecuted churches in Nigeria's Boko Haram zones, where similar attacks occur, or China's underground house churches. Comparisons abound. The biblical fiery furnace in Daniel, where Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego emerged unscathed, or the 1527 Wittenberg plague, where Luther praised amid death. Historians debate, was it coincidence? Meteorologists cite rare haboob storms, dust-laden winds triggering rain, but timing defies probability, odds calculated by experts at 1 in 10,000 for that locale. Controversies arise. Skeptics claim exaggeration, but multiple witnesses, documented by a visiting pastor, Reverend Samuel from Ethiopia, compiled reports. His manuscript, Rain in the Fire, circulated underground, translated into Mandarin and Farsi, encouraging believers in Iran, where apostasy carries death penalties. Modern interpretations vary. Theologians see it as providential intervention, like Aquinas' views on miracles affirming faith. Psychologists note shared trauma bonding, strengthening community per studies on Holocaust survivors. Sociologists analyze it through conflict theory, where oppressed groups leverage narratives for empowerment, similar to Gandhi's nonviolence. Side tangents enrich. Consider Sudan's role in the Arab Spring, Bashir's fall in 2019 sparked by bread price hikes, echoing French Revolution dynamics. Or biographies. Ibrahim's lineage traces to Nubian kings, adding royal irony. Lesser-known facts. Sudan's Christian artifacts, like the Faras Cathedral murals from the 7th century, now in Warsaw museums, symbolize enduring faith. Economically, persecution exacerbates poverty. Christians often denied jobs, forcing black market reliance. Technologically, drones used by militias for surveillance contrast believers' low-tech survival. Regionally, it impacts the Horn of Africa. Ethiopia's Tigray conflict displaced refugees into Sudan, mixing faiths and tensions. Globally, it fuels debates on religious freedom. UN reports cite 340 million persecuted Christians worldwide, with Sudan's story amplifying calls for sanctions. As we reflect, this event teaches timeless lessons. Faith isn't abstract. It's forged in adversity like steel in flame. It challenges complacency in free societies, compared to America's declining church attendance amid secularism. Future implications. As climate change alters weather patterns, more miraculous rains may occur, blurring natural and divine. Yet, for Sudanese Christians, it's certainty. God acts. Why not always? As Job pondered suffering, mysteries persist. Some perish, like the 21 Copts beheaded by ISIS in 2015, their faith unrescued physically, but eternally vindicated. Miracles are glimpses, not guarantees, reminding us death isn't defeat. In conclusion, the Sudan fire that wasn't illuminates human spirit's depths. From ancient Nile banks to modern villages, faith endures. Let it provoke. In your fires, illness, loss, doubt, will you worship first? The rain may come or not, but trust transforms. This story, shared globally, binds us in hope. For those in Sudan, still singing boldly, it's not history, it's life.